Welcome, everyone. This is Patrick Grace from the Catholic Community Foundation. I want to certainly give you a hearty summary welcome to everyone today for joining us for this webinar series. This is I believe, our fifth of this particular series of webinars under the Secure program that we've offered to pastors, business managers, other finance council leaders, and parish leaders as well. So we're grateful you all joined us today on this beautiful summer afternoon. As we always do with these webinars and all of our meetings, we're going to begin with prayer, and then I will go through the agenda. Of course, for those of you that have been with us before, we also have Margaret Fleming from CCS who will walk through logistics of the gathering and how best to interact with us. So Margaret will come on in a minute, but before we do that, I'm going to invite Father Rod Kreidler, who is the pastor of St. Edward's in Ashland, and we are grateful for Father Rod to be with us today to begin our meeting with prayer. Father Rod?
Greetings from the southwest corner of the diocese. Let's begin with prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion and allow us to nurture the bonds of our communities. Fill us with your grace, Lord God, as we continue to make decisions regarding the life, stewardship, health, and safety of our parishes. And continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you,
Father Rod. Margaret, you want to take over the logistics?
Sure, sounds good. Before we get started, I'll go through just these few logistics here. So we've taken a sample screenshot of the attendee interface, and where you can see something that looks like this with a control panel at the side of your computer screen. You may have joined the presentation using your computer's speaker system by default, which means that if you can hear music through your computer, you should be able to hear this presentation. If you prefer to join over the phone, please refer to the confirmation email that you received with the dial-in number and meeting ID. You'll have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing them into the box in your control panel. You can send questions at any time during the presentation, and we will attempt to address as many as possible or email you a response at the end during Q&A or after the presentation. You'll also receive the recording and slides from the session via email in the coming days.
Great, thanks, Margaret. So today's agenda is a pretty simple one. I think we can do this in a 30-minute window, but really the genesis of this, if you look at the agenda, is really to help you, our parish leaders, connect better with our vendors that you use day in and day out to help your own parish communities in the various work and ministry of our parishes. And so what we wanted to do is give you a better idea of how you might advantage and leverage those relationships better. The basic of this webinar will be to go through each of these, and Lauren Costello from CCS is with us she'll talk about each of them individually. But a comment that I would offer in advance would be that while we don't endorse any one of these vendors, we work with them and see them at a lot of our parishes. And so one of the things that we learned, at least I have learned over my many years here, is that parishes don't always understand fully what an individual vendor can provide. And oftentimes, a lot of times I should say, what you are actually purchasing from the vendor and you're not taking advantage of. And so that really the crux of today's webinar is to try to leverage those services. And at the end of this webinar, our goal would be for you to want to pick up the phone and call one of these vendors and say, hey, here's a service that I think that we should be able to use for my individual parish. How can I use it? How can I access it? How might I use it or deploy it at my individual parish? So that's our hope at the end of our 30 minutes this afternoon. So, but like the previous webinars, we want to do a little bit of an audience poll. I should say this is a little different. We didn't do this last time, but we're going to do it this time. And then a little bit of an audience poll to kind of start us off today. So the first audience poll, and you can fill this out. And then we did these the very first webinars we did, 8 weeks ago. But we want to get a sense of who's with us today. So who's on the phone with us today? If you would take a minute to let us know, it's helpful to get a sense of who's joining us today. I'll give you a minute to fill that out. So it's interesting that we have a lot of business managers, fewer pastors. Now that our parishes are open, not surprisingly, there's a lot of additional activity happening in the ministry needs of our parishes. But not surprisingly, business managers remain a strong cohort of individuals who are interested in trying to access and utilize as much as we can with the services provided, whether through our vendors or through the work of the Secure program. The next question. How has the process of reopening your parish or your church gone these past few weeks? Certainly that's an important question for all of us. Hopefully nobody answers that third one, by the way. Well, it's good news that no one put not great at all. That is encouraging. But not surprised. I think one of our travels or some of our travels across the diocese have indicated that the slow but steady progress is a constant theme. We seem to be hearing that each week there's a few more people in the pews, but certainly very few are witnessing or experiencing full capacity. So not surprised by that. And the last question. Which of the following vendors are currently supporting your parish in some way? So select all that might apply. So looking at this, LPI clearly, or I should say between OSV, LPI, and church budget, not surprisingly, those are three of the larger providers of service to parishes, at least in this diocese. I should also add that there could be other, and there are, not could be, there are other vendors that are not one of these five listed here on the screen. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, or obviously eCatholic is not nobody that's on the call here is using them, so we won't spend as much time on their services. But there could be others. But those three in the middle there are very popular, for lack of a better word, vendors. And as I mentioned, or I think I mentioned, we're not here to endorse any one of these. We're just here to help you better leverage and advantage the services that they provide. So we thought it would be helpful just to give you a sense to this audience poll as to how we're using vendors, or rather, who's using whom, before we got started. So now I think I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, who's going to do a recap of our last webinar, which was virtual fundraising events and fundraisers. So Lauren, you want to take it from there?
Thanks, Patrick. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Just want to take a quick moment to review our last webinar where we were focused on parish events and fundraisers, which for some of you on the call, you may still be going through the process of reconsidering what those summer festivals or large fundraisers might look like in a post-COVID environment. And I think these pieces of advice still apply, even if you're, no matter what scale of event you're thinking about. Some of the big highlights here from our last webinar that I want to re-emphasize today is the need to over-communicate. Certainly don't annoy anyone, but over-communicate to your parishioners what's going on, what to expect, how things are changing, and how they can still be a part of the community, even if they're not ready yet to come back to Mass physically at this time. Always emphasizing the need to practice in advance of your event. Certainly we've learned a lot through hosting these webinars over the past few weeks. The value of prepping your talking points and queuing up all the tech needs. There's always some sort of, tech or audio challenge that you're bound to face in these types of virtual gathering spaces. Engaging your audience. I think we took our own advice here. It's always great to have a poll to make sure that folks find a way to be engaged. I know that when I'm watching a webinar online, my attention span seems to wane as time goes on. So always when you're thinking about these events and gathering people online, keeping folks occupied and part of the discussion is extremely important. And then the last two pieces here, this applies whether we're talking about sponsors or donors, anyone that is supporting your parish or supporting your weekly offertory. Keep your sponsors around, thank them in creative ways, and always, always, always make that thank you personal. Whether you're talking about a parishioner or a sponsor, at this time, your parishioners or your sponsors who are continuing to support you through this difficult period, picking up the phone and saying thank you, I think goes a really long way these days. So this is kind of just timeless advice generally, but through the lens of parish events and fundraisers, and hopefully that's stuck with you as we move on to this next topic, which is parish vendors. And I think Patrick queued it up perfectly. We're not focused on any one vendor, but through our work with the Secure program, we've learned so much about the ways in which parishes are engaging with each of these vendors. And it's interesting to us, parishes utilize different vendors for different needs, and they often seem to be all over the map. So, someone is using LPI for their website, but Faith Direct for their e-giving platform, Church Budget for their bulletins, but OSV for their envelopes. I don't think there's any one right formula for the way in which you utilize all of these vendors. I think probably more often than not, it comes down to price and convenience. But what we really want to emphasize today is utilizing all of the complementary services that are already included in your fee. Our interest is you and your parish getting the most out of your relationship with your vendors, and also having an understanding of what different services are being offered through vendors that you may already be working with. Simple is best, and if you're already working with Church Budget to do one thing, perhaps looking into bundling some of those services together might make your daily life, particularly with all the business managers on the call today, a little bit easier. So the only thing I want to highlight on this slide, in addition to what I just mentioned, is that, each of these vendors, it's not a comprehensive list. These are kind of the most common vendors that we see in the diocese, but I just want to highlight that Church Budget has this new function. They just partnered with a firm to be able to offer website design. So that's I believe, this week or the past few days. And we really wanted to emphasize that Church Budget is offering quite a few things across the board. But each of these vendors do really great work in each of these areas. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes. I'm really going to emphasize the right-hand side of this chart here, the complementary and included services. But we'll do like an in-depth review of each of the vendors. And then you'll notice on the bottom right-hand side it will be contact information for each of these vendors as well, the specific Diocese of Cleveland contact. So if you want to follow up with anyone and say, hey, I work with Faith Direct and I'd love to hear more about, one thing or another, the information is there for you to be able to do that. So starting off with Faith Direct, they offer a pretty broad range of paid services. So Faith Direct does anything from increased offertory programs. They have a really great mass communication tool called Parish Cast. And they're also recently fully integrated with Parish Soft. So a lot of your back-end business office functions can be integrated with Faith Direct as well. But what struck us in our conversation with Faith Direct are some of the complementary or included services that are here. One time a year, they do offer a full customizable direct mail outreach opportunity, and that can be at any point in the year, which is pretty notable to us. So they'll help you draft a letter encouraging online giving, and they'll allow you to customize it as well. That can be in a joint effort with an email communication emphasizing the value of giving online and why it's important to continue to support your parish through weekly offertory on a regular basis. Some of the other things that stand out as complementary services that you might not be aware of are Faith Direct's ability to use monthly donation reminders. They offer offertory cards. So for folks that are physically in the pews and want to, remind their pastor that they are giving through Faith Direct, they can hand one of those in lieu of envelopes. Those are available to you as well. I actually just learned this recently through, I believe, St. Mary Hudson. We were talking with the business manager there, and they shared that they use Faith Direct for event registrations as well. So if you have any of those virtual events coming up, you can use Faith Direct to keep folks organized and up to date. Other things of note are that they're bilingual, so English and Spanish materials are available for any of these, direct mail pieces or the email communication. And the only other item that I would add is their text to give function is included in a flat fee pricing. So in that earlier chart, many of the services of these other vendors are a pay for service function, but Faith Direct is just one flat fee, no matter the size of your parish or usage. That's an important note as well.
Hey, Lauren, one of the things I would add about Faith Direct too, they are the single largest provider of e-giving services in the diocese. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they have somewhere between 40 and 45 parishes as customers or clients in the diocese. So again, that doesn't mean they're the best, as we'll learn here a little bit from other vendors that Lauren will highlight. But just to give you a sense of who's using them, and we have the list of the parishes, by the way, of all these vendors if you want to see any of that. But just to highlight that from e-giving, you notice that they don't provide some of the same depth as some of the other services that the vendors provide in terms of the number of services. But this e-giving is one of their niche services.
That's right. Perfect. Okay, so let's move on to our Sunday Visitor. Similar to Faith Direct, they offer online giving. They also do increased offertory programs, which I know many parishes in the diocese have taken advantage of in the past year. Parish capital campaigns, they emphasize their envelope solutions, both customized and in-pew envelopes, as well as special mailings. And then they have an OSB website function as well, and sort of a church manager, so an online office functionality also. So OSB is another pretty popular vendor that we see across the diocese. One thing that I want to highlight right off the bat in our work with secure parishes is that there's OSB in particular has a new, really easy to use platform for online giving, and they're offering a complimentary interface update. So these two little snapshots on the bottom left-hand corner offer just a little piece of basically what you can do is update your OSB hub to this complimentary interface, and your parishioners can go in and donate to specific buckets of funding. It's really easy to use, really well designed. And I happen to know that they've been upgrading parishes the past few weeks to this new interface. So you haven't done that yet and you're using OSB for your e-giving, I definitely recommend reaching out to your OSB representative and seeing if you can get that in place. In addition, if you're using OSB for multiple uses like website, online giving, and maybe like an IOP program or something, they have a complimentary tool called the OSB Hub, where you can access all of your services in one dashboard. So if you want things to be really simple, all in one place, and you really just want to be able to look at it all in one area, that's one way to keep it all organized. They also have OSB forms. This is under the complimentary heading, where similar to Faith Direct, you can, registrations, organize events, those types of things, that's all available. It looks like a Google form when you go online. Really easy to use, seems pretty straightforward. I mentioned the direct donate function to specific funds, so that's what you're seeing here on the bottom left-hand side. And then they also have, similar to Faith Direct and many other e-giving vendors, online giving and promotional materials for you to just be able to talk about online giving in an easy way. Here's how you can do it. Here's how the steps to sign up. And, you know, it just makes it easier for you to not have to reinvent the wheel.
The other thing, by the way, with OSV, I would just draw reference to as well, is that they are the largest provider of the increased offertory program in our diocese. I think close to 55 parishes utilized them last fall for an increased offertory program. And I believe there's 11 or so parishes signed up this upcoming fall. And just a reminder to everyone, the diocese has made the investment or decision to invest a one-time only in paying the expense of doing an increased offertory program. So if you're on the line and you're one of those parishes that have not taken advantage of that, give me a call or give us a call. We can connect you with that. Again, it's something that OSV has been very effective with, working with our parishes.
Great. So our next vendor is LPI, and they operate under a few different words and headings, but essentially LPI does first and foremost bulletins and websites, and their website function is called We Connect. They also offer a parish, like a corresponding parish app through the We Connect service. They really emphasize their ability to do branding, design services, and printing services. So if you're looking for something a little more visual, if you really want I've heard really great reviews from pastors and parish staff on their website template, that it's pretty straightforward and easy to use. They also have an online giving function through WeShare, which is important to note as well. And you can see on the bottom here this postcard that was received from our cathedral here in our diocese. And that's part of one of the complimentary included services called the WeShare engagement campaign. I think this is pretty robust. They offer 2 mailed postcards and 4 emailed communications encouraging online giving, similar to what you see here on the bottom left-hand side. So just emphasizing the way that you can sign up, what the value is of giving online, just a gentle nudge of encouragement. But you can also, you know, if you're going through that engagement campaign and encouraging online giving, you can upload your mailing list to Parishes Online, which is the online host for bulletins, so that your mailing list not only is receiving regular pings to sign up for online giving through WeShare, but they're also receiving a notification that your latest bulletin is available, which just kind of keeps folks a little more organized. And especially if you've gone through all the work of updating your mailing list, it's great to have it all in one place. And then going back to the original, you know, they really emphasize branding, design services, really great parish websites. Their additional suite of services We Create is an online portal for customizable bulletin art and content, and many of those customizable bulletin examples are completely complimentary. So that's just a quick snapshot, but there's a lot going on there, and we've heard that that their websites are really strong, and I think this engagement campaign is a great way to frame encouraging online giving as well.
One other thing with LPI, both LPI and OSV in our experience have great language around stewardship. So if you're looking for a vendor that provides great language and messaging in the area of stewardship, I think both LPI and OSV, I would categorize them as very strong in those areas. It's not to suggest that the others don't carry that message, but I think both LPI and OSVs are stronger in that category as opposed to some of the others. Again, it's something to note if that's something that you're looking for.
Great. And then church budget, I mentioned at the outset that church budget recently added on the ability to build parish websites. So that's a new function listed at the bottom here, but typically church budget is known for envelope options. They have an online giving function through My E-Offering, and then a weekly bulletin subscription service and special mailings. Something that's really notable to us as a complimentary service is the special mailing. You would have to, it's complimentary, though you'd have to cover the cost of postage. but it's included with a generosity envelope, a return envelope, and then a 6x9 letter from your pastor at the parish, which is templated. So they offer 3 letter templates. The one on the bottom left-hand side is just one example, way too tiny to read, but gives you a sense of the length that they're aiming for. You can also customize that letter. And that's just encouraging regular giving. If you have online giving set up, being able to offer the instructions for how to do that. What's notable to us is I know a number of parishes across the diocese are utilizing church budget, but have not yet taken advantage of this special mailing opportunity. And the only thing that I would say is if it's free and simple and they're willing to help you draft a letter, or if you want to slightly customize it, it would be easy to get out the door, and it's just one additional step of encouraging folks in the way that they can continue to support the parish. So taking advantage of those, LPI's engagement campaign or this special mailing, to us seems like a really simple step to supporting a parish without too much back end work. And then the only other thing that I'll offer is they have an online list manager so that you can keep your parish contact information up to date and organized as well.
Just to add to that, to be more specific about Lauren's comment about that, it's a special mailing for the COVID crisis only. And by the way, there's 115 of our 186 parishes utilize church budget for their envelope service. And I think only 4 of those 115 have utilized this special mailing opportunity that they're offering. So just to put a finer point on that.
Thanks, Patrick. The last slide is eCatholic, and I know from our poll that I think no one selected that they're working with eCatholic currently, but just to mention that they also do website design. They have a payment function through their website. They also do live streaming, so this is the only vendor that we've listed here that offers their own provided live streaming service. And then similar to LPI, they really emphasize custom design, branding, and logo design as well. They have a nice suite of parish website themes that are free for you to use. So if you're looking to set up a parish website for the first time, that would be a great place to start. They've got online giving offertory cards, so the two little examples that we have on the bottom left-hand side. You can build a landing page into your existing parish website, or if you're utilizing their themes, you could build an online giving function through that. And then they do a great job of offering some templated bulletin inserts to use as well. We've come across a few parishes who use eCatholic and have had a really positive response, and happy to answer any questions about any of these vendors, maybe with the 2 minutes we have left.
And as we wait to see if there's any questions, I'll end this webinar with the way I began it. Our hope would be, as you looked at one of those vendors, perhaps you're using one of their services, again, the goal would have been at the end of this to pick up the phone and call your respective vendor and have a conversation with them to make sure that you're advantaging and leveraging all of the services that are entitled to your relationship with them. So if you do nothing other than that at the conclusion of this, then I think we've succeeded in giving you another resource as part of this process. Any questions, Margaret? And if not, that's okay. You can always email me or Lauren after or at the conclusion or at any time. We will continue to post these webinars on the Foundation's portal for Secure, so please continue to refer not only to these webinars, but also additional examples. We want to continue to provide you best practices and see what your other parish friends are doing. I think that's the value of this exercise, and we certainly want to continue to do that in the weeks and months ahead. So unless anything else that I missed, Lauren, I think that brings us to 3:30. I hear the cathedral bells in the background, and what a better way to conclude on this afternoon. To thank everyone for once again joining us, and stay tuned to our continued updates on the Secure program, and best of luck as you get into the summer months. Thank you.